Good evening. I'm so pleased to welcome you here as we honor the life and legacy of Robert Creeley, not as a figure from the past, but as a voice still moving among us. My name is Barbara Cole. I'm the Executive and Artistic Director of Just Buffalo Literary Center. Too kind, thank you. It's no exaggeration that Just Buffalo wouldn't exist if not for Robert Creeley. This year, Just Buffalo celebrates our 50th anniversary, but our true origin story begins even earlier, with a 13-year-old girl named Debora Ott who heard the voice of Robert Creeley reading Love Comes Quietly and was, in a word, changed. Mesmerized by that voice, she became determined to seek it out. And years later, that search brought her here to Buffalo. Once here, inspired by Bob's fierce disdain for the town and gown divide, Debora began organizing poetry readings on her own, creating spaces where people of all walks of life could come together around the power of words. That impulse towards community eventually became Just Buffalo Literary Center. So when we say Bob Creeley helped make Just Buffalo possible, we mean that quite literally. His work, his voice, his refusal of false separations between university and city, poet and public, art and daily life helped shape the very conditions from which we grew. Though Debora sadly can't be with us tonight, my colleague Noah Falck will share her remarks shortly. We're also holding close other cherished friends who can't be with us. Susan Howe, poet genius, was not able to travel, but remains always with us. If you venture downtown, you'll see Susan's Lit City banner on Washington Street, along with Bob's and other literary giants who have called Buffalo home. Tonight, we're also lifting up Jorge Guitart, who passed away in October. In a few moments, you will see Jorge's reading of his poem For Bob as part of our Lit City Voices project. And of course, we're lifting up Dear Pen, who many of our speakers will be invoking. We honor these beloveds now and always. Before we begin, I know you've heard many thank yous, but I'd be remiss if I didn't express heartfelt gratitude to all of the organizers, especially Jim Maynard, Anna Wager, Jason Duval, and Judith Goldman. This two-day symposium, so perfectly titled For Love, would not exist without Judith's tireless labors of love. All the applause. Lastly, sincere thanks to all of tonight's readers, each bringing a different cadence, another aperture into Bob's life and work. Our format this evening will be simple. Because Bob eschewed formality, we'll do the same and forego formal introductions. You can see the order of readers and a QR code linking to their bios in your programs. Anyone who needs accommodation with a print copy of the poems being read tonight, please find a packet with my colleague Z, who is standing there near this beautiful chair. We realize that the voices gathered here represent only a small fraction of the countless friends, colleagues, and students whose lives have been touched by Robert Creeley. No doubt every person in this room carries some memory. We want to hear your stories. Just Buffalo invites you to share your personal reflections, tributes, photos, or the poem that changed you. You'll find QR codes around the room to contribute to this community remembrance project. We hope you'll add your words to join others across time and place, honoring the life that Bob lived here among us. For me, like so many who spoke at the round table, like Debora Ott, so many of you here in the audience, Buffalo is the place I came to dedicate my life to poetry. More specifically, the Poetics program that Bob created with Charles Bernstein, Susan Howe, and Dennis Tedlock. Buffalo was shorthand for a community of writers and artists dedicated to innovation, radical listening, and poetic possibility. Before English departments and MFA programs across the country and around the world imitated this singular place, Buffalo was like a poet's Vegas. It was our Graceland, maybe even Mecca. And Bob, Charles, and Susan, they were our holy trinity. So much more than professors, teachers, mentors, not to mention confidants, career coaches, surrogate parents, and friends. As our literary forebearers, they modeled a poetics of openness, curiosity, generosity, rigor, a willingness to embrace complexity and distill it down to the most elemental: breath, sound, silence. One of the first seminars I ever attended featured Adrian Rich in conversation with Bob, who spoke with remarkable candor about how his views on gender had evolved. That stayed with me, not just the content of what he said, but his willingness to keep changing, keep listening, to remain unfinished. That too is part of Creeley's legacy. He built vast networks of collaboration and correspondence, understood poetry not as a solitary act, but as conversation, relation, one voice trying again and again to reach another voice across the room, across the page, across time. Buffalo is not just where Bob lived, it is where he listened, taught, walked, argued, laughed, wrote, and made company with a company that continues. We are part of that continuation tonight. For love, for company, for the breath before the next word, onward. And now it is my honor to welcome Will Creeley, who is speaking on behalf of the family. We're so grateful for their presence. I know Will requires no introduction for many of you. For those who don't know, Will is the legal director of FIRE, the Foundation for Individual Rights and Expression, where he has passionately defended First Amendment rights and core civil liberties. Co-author of First Things First, a modern coursebook on free speech fundamentals, his writing has appeared in the New York Times, Washington Post, Wall Street Journal, The Atlantic, and many others. I had the rare privilege of seeing Will speak on his work and was so struck by that rare combination of fierce thinking delivered in gentle, lilting cadence, simply uncanny. Such an extraordinary extension of the Creeley name and legacy to be upholding the fundamental necessity of free speech. Please welcome Will Creeley.
Thank you, Barbara. That is far too kind. In my professional capacity, let me just say, fuck the government. We will leave it there, and now I will speak to you just as my father's son and my sister's brother and my children's father and my wife's husband and the son of my father and my mother. It means so much to me and to Hannah and to all of us Creeleys to see you all here. Thank you so much. I really, thank you, Barbara. Thank you, Jim. Thank you, everybody. When Hannah and I were talking, maybe in December, Hannah, January, we were thinking, here it comes. We saw it, we knew it, as folks in this room may remember, no presumptions, Dad died not too far off from his 80th birthday, and there had been already some thought of what to do for Dad's 80th, and in the end there was a terrific program here, the poster of which was at the university today in that remarkably dear and sweet collection, and also hangs in my son's room next to Bills and Sabres stuff. So it's a place of honor. And thinking about what we would do for 100, my goodness, we thought maybe just, head up to Mount Auburn Cemetery, where my mother's stone is now next to my father's. We didn't know there was anything going on. It reminds me of the great bath time song in our house. How was I to know there was a party going on, right? Splish splash, I was taking a bath. And it is a real treat to be here with you all. I have so much to say, but I will just say mostly thank you. Seeing the movies last night, driving around with my son and daughter and wife today, driving out to Cape and Hall, which I vividly remember going to guitar lessons, while Dad would go to his office. I told my kids, hang out last night, tonight. Hannah and I went to an awful lot of poetry readings, and some of them with you all, and it was a real blessing. It was a real blessing. But when we heard the news that this was going on, I felt really moved by it, touched to be remembered, pleased by the pleas, thankful for folks still getting together and remembering both my father and my mother. They would have loved it too. So I'll leave it there and get out of the way, but I just really do want to say thank you so much. My wife and I met a year after my father's death. My kids, born in 2014, 2017, Hannah's kids, born year after on each side. So they didn't know Dad. And I said, this is going to be it, This will give you some sense of it. So I want to say thank you to everybody for participating, for giving my children some sense of what it was like. I am deeply grateful. With that, one poem, one favorite of mine that I've read to them on grandfather's birthday in years past. So, old story. I'm going to read it twice just to give myself that space. Old story. One bell wouldn't ring loud enough, so they beat the bell to hell, Max, with an axe. Show it who's boss, boss. Me, I dreamt I dwelt in some place one could relax, but I was wrong, wrong, wrong. You got a song, man, sing it. You got a bell, man, ring it. One more time, and you can feel free to join in, right? One bell wouldn't ring loud enough, so they beat the bell to hell, Max, with an axe. Show it who's boss, boss. Me, I dreamt I dwelt in some place one could relax, but I was wrong, wrong, wrong. You got a song, man, sing it. You got a bell, man, ring it. Thank you.
This is Debora Ott. When I was Bob's student, the country and the Main Street campus were in turmoil. The National Guard occupied the gym, and we watched the changing of the guard from the roof of the student union. Bob often began class feet propped on the desk's edge, an open newspaper on his lap. As he swooped his hair back, he read salient news of the day and trajected outward from there to talk of the times and poetry. There was no Amherst campus yet, just the way Bob liked it. He was dispirited after the move to the suburbs and stayed on only after a new contract was offered, including the David Gray Chair and a chance to bring some visiting writers to Buffalo. Walking the Dog, the signature reading series Bob curated, emerged. I complained it was Walking the Dog so white, and Bob eventually invited Nozoki Shenang to read. She glided onto the stage of the auditorium of the Albright Knox Art Gallery on roller skates. It was fantastic. Bob introduced me to bebop. He taught me, always turn your keys. Manipulate means to shape with one's hands. The power was in my hands, and a plan is the grid upon which spontaneity rests. He was responsible for bringing the internet to City Honors High School through the Lanham Foundation, and he created an online magazine there with the help of Ken Sherwood. He said I had the biggest heart in Buffalo. Back in the day, I signed my correspondence, Love and Blessings. Perhaps Bob got that from me. Perhaps, as Penn suspected, my silky, even dark hair was from him. For Christmas 1989, I gave Bob a rubber stamp with a Chinese ideogram that translated to read, "I have forgotten all human relations, but not poetry." After the new year, he sent me this poem. I have forgotten all human relations, but not poetry. I have forgotten all that seemed significant, but not the consequences I have. Not the consequences I have never seen. This I have wanted to make this trip many times, but got lost getting there. I have had many sorrows in my literal life, but much happiness. Also, I've forgotten what it was they thought to remember. I have forgotten. With love and Happy New Year, Bob, January 8th, 1990. Thanks. That's Debora Ott. I'm just going to read one poem, one of my favorite Bob poems. It's called A Night Sky. All the grass dies in front of us. The fire again flares out. The night, such a large place. Stars, the points, but like places, no depth. I see a flat, a plain, as if the desert were showing smaller places. Thanks.
I'm just going to read a few Creeley poems here, of course. This one stuck out preparing for the night because it references, well, a few things. Our perpetual moment of time of war, or as Will would say, fuck the government. And references an intersection right around the corner from this gallery here. The tiger. Today, we saw a tiger with two heads come bounding out of the forest by the corner of Main and Bailey. We were not afraid. The war had stopped 15 minutes previous. We had stopped in a bar to celebrate, but now stood transfixed by another fear. And in relation to this idea of the company, just a few other poems I want to read of his that I shared with friends of mine, like either reading them with my friends and laughing and delighting in them, or listening to Bob read them on different recordings. This one has always kind of stuck in my mind. Pieces. I didn't want to hurt you. Don't stop to think. It hurts to live like this. Meat sliced, walking. And to close, I'll just read a few from 30 Things, which I talked about permission during the talk earlier, and reading these almost throwaway pieces of text and loving them just as a writer, as a poet, gives you so much permission to indulge your own whimsies that way. So let me read a few of those here. Xmas poem, Bolinas. All around the snow don't fall. Come Christmas, we'll get high and go find it. No farther out than in. No nearer here than there. Postcards for Bob Grenier. Each thing, you didn't even taste it. A red flag on a red pole. Heaven must spell something. If the telephone rings, don't say anything. A beating around the bush, green growth. Dad's mother's death. Up on top, the space goes further than the eye can see. We're up here calling over the hill. And the last one, one day. One day after another, perfect, they all fit.
Just reading a short selection. End of page, end of this, company. Wee notebook kept my mind in hand. Let the world stay open to me, day after day, words to say, things to be. Credo. Creo que sí. I believe it'll rain tomorrow. I believe the son of a bitch is going into the river. I believe all men are created equal. By your leave, a leafy shelter over the exposed person. I'm a believer creature of habit, but without out there a void of pattern, older the broken pieces, no longer salvageable bits, but incommensurate chips, yet must get it back together. In God we trust. Emptiness, privilege, will not perish from this earth. In particular, echo of inside pushes at edges, all these years collapse in slow motion. The will to believe, the will to be good, the will to want a way out, humanness, like you, man, us, pun, for once beyond reflective mirror of brightening prospect. I believe what it was a hope it could be, somehow what it was and would so continue. A plank to walk out on, fair enough. Jump, said the pirate. Believe me, if all those endearing young charms, here as opposed to there, even in confusions there seems still a comfort, still a faith. I'd as lief, not go away, not believe. I believe in belief. All said, whatever I can think of comes from there, goes there. As it gets now impossible to say, it's your hand I hold to, still your hand. The place. Swoop of hawk, or mind's adjustment to sight. Memory? Air unrelieved, unlived? Begin again, the play of cloud, the lift of sudden cliff, the place in place, the way it was again. Go back a day, take everything, take time, and play it back again. The staggering path, ridiculous, uncertain bird, blurred, fuzzy, fog or rocks which seem to hang in imperceptible substance, there or here in thought. This thinking is a place itself unthought, which comes to be the world. The conspiracy. You send me your poems, I'll send you mine. Things tend to awaken even through random communication. Let us suddenly proclaim spring and jeer at the others, all the others. I will send a picture too, if you send me one of you. The friend. What I saw in his head was an inverted vision, and the glass cracked when I put my hand in. My own head is round with hair for adornment, but the face is an ornament. Your face is wide with long hair, and eyes so wide they grow deep as I watch. If the world could only be rounder, like your head, like mine, with your eyes for real lakes. I sleep in myself. That man was a friend, sans canoe, and I wanted to help him. Please. Oh God, let's go. This is a poem for Kenneth Pratchett. Everywhere, they are shooting people. People, 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 people. This is a poem for Allen Ginsberg. I want to be everywhere, elsewhere. I want to be elsewhere, elsewhere. This is a poem about a horse that got tired. Poor, old, tired horse. I want to go home. I want you to go home. This is a poem which tells the story, which is the story. I don't know. I get lost. If only they would stand still and let me. Are you happy, sad, not happy? Please come. This is a poem for everyone.
A wicker basket. Comes the time when it's later, and onto your table the head waiter puts the bill, and very soon after rings out the sound of lively laughter. Picking up change, hands like a walrus, and a face like a barn door's, and a head without any apparent size, nothing but two eyes. So that's you, man, or me. I make it as I can. I pick up, I go, faster than they know. Out the door, the street like a night, any night, and no one in sight. But then, well, there she is, old friend Liz. And she opens the door of her Cadillac. I step in back, and we're gone. She turns me on. There are very huge stars, man, in the sky. And from somewhere very far off, someone hands me a slice of apple pie with a gob of white ice cream on top of it. And I eat it, slowly. And while certainly they are all laughing at me, and all around me is racket of these cats not making it, I make it in my wicker basket.
Are you guys hearing that? Yes. It sounds like I'm radioactive. Is it okay? Did this just start happening just right now? I do have a cell phone. There you go. Oh my God. That's so good. I could just get rid of it. I could just get rid of it. Okay, all right. Because it's impossible to follow Robert Creeley, I thought I would read this poem that I wrote for him first, and then I'll read a Robert Creeley poem. Mayday. I too lived in Arcadia, in a house made of straw, a gutter world of kindness. The poet's secret is nothing to lose. How fierce the life projects into a line, or is it the other way, rain falling upward? You couldn't pay for nights like this, Virgil on the wire, the brass of all these things just walking up the stairs. Man, what dignity to know who you are and still live among the insufficient word. The world, you owned it. Owned as in confessed, owned up. You said, it's me. You said, I know the man. Said, it is I. It is me. There's a really great poem of Bob's called Heroes that's sort of referring to, where he's kind of invoking the Chamaean Sibyl out of Virgil and thinking about, like, talking about his own voice. And my father was born the same year as Robert Creeley, and like him, enlisted in World War II. as somebody who was really too young to do that, like at 17, right before the end of the war. And my father, too, was asymmetrical. He had a accident when he was a kid that left one of his legs much shorter than the other. So there's something about that, syncopation and that kind of sense of and critique of heroism that was really part of my sense of both of them as individuals, and that I think is connected with Bob's sense of inheritance and continuity through the mythic and through the history of poetry. So I just thought I would read this poem that I really just feel like I read for the first time as I was reading through his work again in the months approaching this moment. So, Prayer to Hermes. Hermes, god of crossed sticks, crossed existence, protect these feet I offer. Imagination is the wonder of the real, and I am sore afflicted with the devil's troubles, the twos of this half-life, this twilight. Neither one nor two, but a mixture walks here in me, feels forward, finds behind the track, yet cannot stand still or be here, elemental, be more or less a man, a woman. What I understand of this life, what was right in it, what was wrong, I have forgotten in these days of physical change. I see the ways of knowing, of securing life grow ridiculous. A weakness, a tormenting, relieving weakness comes to me. My hand I see at arm's end, 5 fingers, fist, is not mine. Then must I forever walk on, as I have and as I can. Neither truth nor love nor body itself, nor anyone of any become me. Yet questions are tricks for me and always will be. This moment the gray, suffusing fog floats in the quiet courtyard beyond the window. This morning grows now to noon, and somewhere above the sun warms the air and wetness drips as ever under the gray, diffusing clouds. This weather, this winter comes closer, this physical sentence. I give all to you, hold nothing back, have no strength to. My luck is your gift, my melodious breath, my stumbling, my twisted commitment, my vagrant drunkenness, my confused flesh and blood. All who know me say, why this man's persistent pain, the scarifying openness he makes do with? Ah, brother spirit, what do they know of whatever is the instant, cannot wait a minute, will find heaven and hell, will be there again even now, and will tell of itself all the world.
Is for Hannah's 14th birthday. What's heart to say as days passed? What's a mind to know after all? What's it mean to be wise or right if time's still insistent master? But if you doubt the track, still don't look back. Let the love you bring find its fellow. Girl to young woman, worlds well begun, all comes true just for you. Trust heart's faith wherever it goes. It still knows you follow. This is called For Will. I was at the door, still standing, as if waiting for more, but not knowing what for. Was I with you? Already we'd come a long distance together. It was time now for something other. In my head, a story echoed. Someone had told me of how a son and father came to a like doorway. Then, in seeming anger, the son dragged the father out through an orchard until the father shouted, "Only this far. I dragged my father, no more. Put me down." Was this to be their parting, the last word? Was it only to be gone? Each should think of then as each other. All this time together, silent, warm, knowing without thinking one another's mind, the way light lifted in the morning, the road's enduring question, the night's dark care. No end to such. Could there be? No, there was no end to it. Always life was the constant, and one held it, gave it, one to another, saw it go in that instant, with love, with all that one knows. No riddle to that, except there is no end until it comes. No friends but those once found. And this is a poem that I wrote for pen. I have to say, I have to give credit to Susan Howe, who told me sometime in maybe about 1980-something. She said, "I can't believe you and Penn. Don't you know Penn?" I said, "No, I know who she is, but I don't know her." "Well, you have to be her friend. You just got to be her friend. You've got to go up and talk to her." "Okay," I said. I was at a party at Carl Dennis's the next night. There was Penn sitting with Will, her baby, on her lap. And I went up to her and said, "Listen, Penn, Susan Howe says we have to be friends, so could you come for lunch next week?" And she said, "Sure, I'd love to." And that was the beginning of a very dear and long and intimate and wonderful friendship. And so I wrote 2 or 3 poems for her, but this one isn't accurately, it's called In Memory of Penn Creeley, and it's called My Flawed and Stupid Love. And some of the details in here are not accurate, doesn't matter. Okay. When she had concluded she can no longer resist the disease, it creeps into her throat like a groan she is unable to quiet. It blisters out in shouts and stutters and stumbles. When she has writhed too many nights alone in the frenzy of fever and damp sheets, she resolves it is time to pack up her scattered belongings and move west to Betsy's place, to her sister who will wash her soiled body and tend to her as she quietly dies. I want to say she's going to Nova Scotia, but she's not going to Nova Scotia. She's leaving for the woods of Washington. I like the sounds of Nova Scotia on my tongue. Nova Scotia, new land, another place where she can be reborn in death. The second half is I'm speaking to her. What should you take away from here to comfort you in anguish? I've wrapped a golden cherub, tiny statue, a chubby infant as a guardian angel. Here I say, he's full of wings and motion. Hold him when the pain becomes too great. Here I say, take this, a paltry check, $1,000 to defray the cost of hailing that old leaky bark to ferry you across the river. Here I say, take these, some lines of verse, some family photographs. Here I say, take this, my best embrace. Sweet Jesus Christ, I have not got another thing to give you but my flawed and stupid love.
I'm Celia White. I first encountered Bob when I was a 14-year-old poet in Jimmy Gilliam's class at Just Buffalo at the old Allentown Community Center, and she had us write to famous poets, and I have a letter from Robert Creeley to baby poet me, and I was lucky enough to work with Bob at the City Honors Project, too, with Will. Earlier today, I was reading Szymborska, and she said this, which I thought was such a Creeleyism. Whatever inspiration is, it's born from a continuous I don't know. I've written a poem based on Bob's very famous poem, I Know a Man. So if you know this poem, you'll understand the love that I've brought to this one, I hope. You know the woman, after Creeley. As you said to your friend, for no reason, just to be talking, John, you said, which was not her name, the darkness inside us, what can we do to end it? Of course we shall. And why not? Bury the goddamn body and live, she said, for the hell of it. Look how we're living anyway. Thank you.
I'll have to check the calendar, but I think it was 10 years ago, almost to the day, that I read with Bill Berkson in a gallery in Chelsea. And it was his last reading, unfortunately. And we were both really, really happy that, and pleasantly surprised that Penelope came. We had no idea that she was going to come. And I read this poem, or I had planned to read this poem anyways, and we had a lovely conversation about it afterwards, and she liked it. So this is words for Robert Creeley, and tonight it's for Penelope. Words. The words are in the body. The body is in the mind. The big white cloud is in the sky. The stars are in the eye. There is a butterfly on my finger. The heart is in the Bronx. There's nothing in Delaware. The brain is not the mind. The future looks bright. The chance is in the forefoot. The money's under the table. The suitcase is on the mattress because nothing really mattress. The mistress has a mistress. The numbers don't add up. The money talks, the belly breathes. The words are in the mouth. The tongue tickles the pizza. But the heart stays alive. The finger is in the ear, and the other finger is in the other ear. Because the dragon is in the moat. In emotion is the caption beneath the moat, beneath the caption, below the words, under the stars that breathe in a movie starring an actress from the 20th century whose name escapes me.
Everyone, it's such a pleasure to be here tonight. Thank you for including me. So I didn't know Robert Creeley personally, but his work had always occupied a very large and grateful space in my mind. And so you can imagine that when we moved to Buffalo, Matt and I were particularly stunned and grateful to discover that Penelope Creeley had actually become our friend and landlady. So the first 2 years that we lived here, we rented a house from Penelope Creeley. And then when she moved back to Buffalo to kind of complete her final cancer treatment during the pandemic, we moved a block away. So we ended up becoming friends and neighbors to each other and delivering little gifts to each other. And she would tell me stories. And in that time, I also became a gardener, which I hadn't really been before. And I'll tell you a story about Penn, which is that when I first became really serious about gardening, and we just moved into our house, which was a block away from hers, she drove me out to the outskirts of Buffalo and took me to all her favorite garden centers. And I was a very novice gardener, so I put all this stuff on my cart. And then in the checkout line, she just casually picked up the most expensive plant that I had selected without realizing how much it cost, which was a very beautiful climbing rose bush. And she bought it for us as a housewarming present. And it has grown like a weed in our yard ever since. And so every spring when it comes back, I think of her and think of the Creeleys. So I am going to read a Robert Creeley poem in the spirit of fuck the government and in the spirit of not separating relations between town and university communities. As I've watched kind of the dark times that are unfolding in the streets of Buffalo today and the people being detained by ICE, some of the very prescient words that came back to me were Creeley's from the 1968 August issue of Poetry magazine. So this is his poem, America. America, you owed for reality. Give back the people you took. Let the sun shine again on the four corners of the world you thought of first, but do not own or keep like a convenience. People are your own word. You invented that locus and term. Here, you say, is where we are. Give back what we are, these people you made us, and nowhere but you to be. And just as a closing, I brought some cuttings of Penelope's rosebush with me tonight here. And there's a few of them left. So if you're a gardener and you would like to help propagate kind of the spirit of generosity that the Creeleys gave to Buffalo, please take a cutting and soak it in water and put it in soil and plant it in your own garden. Thank you.
One drink, I don't drink, so but I know Charles had at least two, so you guys are in for a good finale here. So I'm going to read I Know a Man. I'll just say if you don't know, I'm a person of transgender experience, but when I transitioned, I had some friends who said, you have to be really careful now because you have no idea if you actually ever get to a point where you're passing, like how much you're going to affect other people, e.g. women, and what that means, especially as a white dude, right? So, but I like this, I've always relied on Bob for moral compass, as Will would say, right? And, certainly look out where you're going is a good place to end this. All right, so I know a man. As I said to my friend, because I'm always talking, John, I said, which was not his name, the darkness surrounds us. What can we do against it, or else shall we, and why not, buy a goddamn big car? Drive, he said, for Christ's sake, look out where you're going. These are all just like greatest hits. Oh No, which I think of as the gray chair poem, I think. Oh no, if you wander far enough, you will come to it, and when you get there, they will give you a place to sit. For yourself only, in a nice chair, and all your friends will be there with smiles on their faces, and they will likewise all have places. And I want to read one more poem, which is The Door for Robert Duncan, which we talked about, Stephen talked about a bit. And I was remembering that, where's Charles? Where'd he go? Oh, way back there. I was remembering that when I studied with Bob, he had us read Content Stream, and you have an essay about, which I thought when I was a young person, making fun of Bob Dylan for that song Shelter from the Storm. And I was very upset about this, and I wrote a poem, I wrote a paper for Bob's class saying what a terrible person you were for having done this. And so we got around to The Door today and this figure of the lady, and then I thought, oh, there she is again, the lady from Shelter from the Storm. And my suspicion about her is actually kind of the opposite, I think, of yours. Like, I don't have a problem with the romantic, like coming from the Duncanian tradition. I can go there, but my suspicion that is, and I said this to Charles and Stephen earlier, is that I think it's a much deeper figure of the lady, and I said, well, maybe it's mitochondrial Eve, which, if we're talking about relationality and that down-home relationality where you say brother or sister or sibling, and well, that's all where it begins, if we want to be inclusive, right? So, and I know that Bob was not a religious person, and he made that clear, but he also often made clear that one's experience of the real was one's experience, and that was thus real. So there's something to let in that, you know, again, through my lens of Duncan, or actually through my lens as a minister would call it the mystery, but yeah, I think this poem can go on forever. It's The Door, yeah. The Door for Robert Duncan. It is hard going to the door cut so small in the wall where the vision which echoes loneliness brings a scent of wild flowers in a wood. What I understood, I understand. My mind is sometimes torment, sometimes good and filled with livelihood and feels the ground. But I see the door and knew the wall and wanted the wood and would get there if I could with my feet and hands and mind. Lady, do not banish me for digressions. My nature is a quagmire of unresolved confessions. Lady, I follow. I walked away from myself. I left the room. I found the garden. I knew the woman. In it, together we lay down. Dead night remembers. In December, we change, not multiplied, but dispersed, sneaked out of childhood, the ritual of dismemberment. Mighty magic is a mother. In her, there is another issue of fixture, repeated form, the race renewal, the charge of the command. The garden echoes across the room. It is fixed in the wall like a mirror that faces a window behind you and reflects the shadows. May I go now? Am I allowed to bow myself down in the ridiculous posture of renewal, of the insistence of which I am the virtue? Nothing for you is untoward. Inside you would also be tall, more beautiful. Come toward me from the wall. I want to be with you. So I scream to you, who hears as the wind and changes, multiply, invariably changes in the mind. Running to the door, I ran down as a clock runs down, walked backwards, stumbled, sat down, hard on the floor near the wall. Where were you? How absurd, how vicious. There is nothing to do but get up. My knees were iron. I rusted in worship of you. For that one sings, one writes the spring poem, one goes on walking. The lady has always moved to the next town, and you stumble on after her. The door in the wall leads to the garden, where in the sunlight sit the graces in long Victorian dresses of which my grandmother had spoken. History sings in their faces. They are young, they are obtainable, and you follow after them also in the service of God and truth. But the lady is indefinable. She will be the door in the wall to the garden in the sunlight. I will go on talking forever. I will never get there. Oh, lady, remember me, who in your service grows older, not wiser, no more than before. How can I die alone? Where will I be then? Who am I now alone? What groans so pathetically in this room where I am alone? I will go to the garden. I will be a romantic. I will sell myself in hell. In heaven also I will be. In my mind I see the door. I see the sunlight before me across the floor beckon to me as the lady's skirt moves small beyond it.
The plan is the body. There is each moment a pattern. There is each time something for everyone. The plan is the body. The mind is in the head. It's a moment in time, an instant, second, the rhythm of one, and one, and one, and one, the two, the three. The plan is in the body. Hold it an instant. In the mind, hold it. What you said, the two, the three. Times in the body, hands, feet, you remember. I remember. I speak it. Speak it. The plan is the body. Times you didn't want to. Times you can't think you want to. You. Me. Remember me here. Me wants to. Me. And thinking of you. The plan is the body. The plan is the body. The sky is the sky. The mother. The father. The plan is the body. Who can read it? Plan is the body. The mind is the plan. I. Speaking. The memory gathers like memory. Plan. I thought to remember. Thinking again. Thinking. The mind is the plan of the mind. The plan is the body. 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 Time is some sort of hindsight or else rhythm of activity, e.g., now it's 11 days later, also alive, like they say. Where it is, was, and will be never, only here, fluttering as falling leaves, knives to avoid tunnel down the vague sides. It. Oh no. If you wander far enough, you will come to it. And when you get there, they will give you a place to sit. For yourself only, in a nice chair. and all your friends will be there with smiles on their faces. And they will likewise all have places. You are always with me. There is never a separate place, but if in the twisted place I cannot speak, not indulgence or fear only, but a tongue rotten with what it tastes, there is a memory of water, of food when hungry. Someday will not be this one, then to say words like a clear, fine ash sifts like dust from nowhere. The plan is the body. There is each moment a pattern. There is each time something for everyone. The mind is the plan. I, speaking, the memory gathers like memory. Plan, I thought to remember. Thinking again, thinking. The mind is the plan of the mind. The plan is the body. The plan is the body. The plan is the body. The plan is the body.